All right, this is impulsive light activity. This is what was appearing on the ceilings inside of the Chase Bank. So you're recognizing the pattern of conduct. Over the Chase Bank is where the demons that are a terrorist organization, not a law enforcement agency, were flying in circles over that bank, where you saw the people of the state inside of that building while I was in the parking lot, not inside of my apartment. And this is also not sunlight. This is the environment where the entity is group stalking with the government that uses helicopters to terrorize you. What you're going to pay attention to with regard to this is demonic, and you can see the shadow of the trees appearing at a distance. And I also want you to pay attention to this. In the great distance, the shimmering light you see back way up at the top of the hillside, which is impulsive light activity, this little shimmery thing. This is exactly what happens when I'm walking from my parking lot, leaving Planet Fitness, and the light source is seen through the window of Silverview Townhomes, and my body molested while I'm walking in the shade, as though the sun is gonna still be present at this property, hitting Silverview Townhomes window and ricocheting from that property onto the property where I'm at to create my shadow in the shade at 6 in the morning. That's the pattern of conduct. That's the demonic evidence, okay, of what is group stalking. The engineered light, the stalking with the fake sun, a sun that is not over Chase Bank. So I want you to see the shadow of the trees are appearing at a distance onto the wall. And then you're also looking at what is disappearing. It's becoming more and more faint, but it's still here. It's a rectangular size. The shape of it is the shape of the door. And if you can see the light, there's like a radiance of light. This is not sunlight, and the fake sun is above, and it's also not over Chase Bank, but you're looking at the same light activity over inside of Chase Bank, as though that sunlight that's on the floor around a third-party group stalker working at a facilitating venue. This is the prosecution of a bank, J.P. Morgan, a facilitating venue. I'm going to prosecute them because they're also engaged in surveillance as well. Don't forget about that. And this is the light source that's over me. And it is not at 1:40 p.m. creating any sunlight through any windows on the ceilings of Chase Bank at 1600 Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles, California. But in that unnatural environment, in this demonic environment, where from a house on a hillside, you're looking at some radiant light hitting some surface, and it's creating light on my wall. No, that's impossible light. There is no explanation for what is above, creating light horizontally, creating the shadow of these trees. It's a show of hostility because the entity is witnessing me expose them. As you contrast my driving yesterday at this time in Los Angeles, while who is group stalking? The same one that's group stalking while I live here is group stalking while I'm driving toward the bank, on the roads, repeatedly crossing path over, while this is over my sunroof in my car, which I am present of mind. I have presence of mind to document it. Demons are hostile to that, however. Only a psychopath, as you're going to analyze the stalker and the sex offender and the terrorist, only a psychopath is upset, mad at you because you are enforcing your rights about their stalking, about their sexual violence, about their terrorism. And that's the state of California. This is also speaking to real-time knowledge while you're subject to the demonic, while you're documenting at that on a cell phone. This is federal stalking, prosecution for the entire entity. Okay, this is documentation of the light activity inside of the Chase Bank. Not just am I prosecuting for the light activity, which is evidence of your group stalking, the criminal co-conspirator literally flew in circles over your establishment, which is a terrorizing threat to me. The engineered light inside of that establishment at 1600 Vermont Avenue, Chase Bank, a group stalker, that's terrorism to me. It's also a violation of my privacy rights as a consumer at that establishment. And that is also a relevant aspect with regard to all the ways I'm being violated by the state who is engaged in group stalking. And it is also evidence because that so-called sun is not going anywhere. It's still over the front of as I'm facing the same hillside where you see the so-called sunrise. All right, and while an environment is following, like I'm showing again, contrasting today versus yesterday, that's terrorism by the state. And that's terrorism by the entire population when I say the state. It's not traffic then. Now you're able to recognize the demonic behavior. It's not traffic, it's pacing. They're not doing anything normal. This is not normal society. This is a demonic activity on an ongoing basis. And that's the significance of seeing this over at the same position where I remain inside of one apartment, not getting in my car, not driving anywhere, and versus when I'm in traffic going to an entirely different location, which is not over, this is not over Chase Bank, and it's not going to be seen over Chase Bank. It's not going to be seen through any windshield of any vehicle parked at any property over here. I'm showing you what is the specific environment. And for that, what Chase Bank is documented engaging in is what the people here living at this property are engaging in 24 hours let me see, 25-8 is what the people of the state living at Alvarado Gardens are engaging in, and they're going to federal prison for it, okay? In the same way that you're hearing the loud crashing noise, it's a demon's method of expressing hostility, like dogs bark. That's what a demon just did right now. The engineer light inside of my apartment, that's a show of hostility by demons. The entity stalking in helicopters, it's a show of hostility by demons. And this is while they are aware of what I'm documenting, so I'm gonna prosecute for that, okay? So it is, again, relevant to what is a sex offense. While I'm subject to surveillance inside of my apartment, it's a sex offense by the government entirety, the entire population that I have conclusively established as engaging in surveillance. That's what group stalking is. It's state surveillance. All right, so Satan's system of keeping you under surveillance, this corrupt government, that system is already present, watching you not actually having rights that you think you have in this country. It's already in progress right now. I am prosecuting it because we still have constitutional laws on the books, but who knows how long those are going to last, okay? Nonetheless, it's 1:47 p.m. and the light source you see over my apartment is speaking to, you're gonna prosecute on the fact that that's not possibly the natural environment. Don't forget about the documentation today in 2022, where I am right now sitting inside of the Paul Bryan Library in Rancho Cucamonga at the Victoria Gardens. Okay, so I'm not only contrasting my placement, my location. I went to the bank yesterday, and then I went to the car wash, and the entity maintained that light source that's over my head right now at my apartment at Alvarado Gardens, where the sun is rising and setting. And then when I'm nowhere near this property, clearly you see it over my head at my front door. It is not in this direction. It's not over any gas station. It's not over Arco. It's not over any bank. It's staying stationary, first of all, here, and it's over the top of my head at a readily identifiable location. And it will never create this light activity that you saw appear on my wall. That's the presence of the demonic. It's additional evidence of what it is that I've already established as a matter of evidence. And the entity engages in that terrorism via directed light, while it is aware that I'm exposing it. And for purposes of prosecution, with real-time knowledge of what I'm doing on a communication device, that's in violation of Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. The entire population is engaging in that on a 24-hour basis. While my apartment is the center of amplification of audible activity, ongoing surveillance, corporate invasion of privacy, okay, ongoing stalking. You're not living, exercising any privacy rights at 1826 Lobdell Place. You're group stalking by address, and I'm gonna prosecute you. The same population are on the streets like they demonstrated at the bank, while I was on the streets driving to the bank. The entire population is gonna be prosecuted. All right, it is currently 1:49 p.m. This is P.O.C.